Hi, and welcome to the Revive, Thrive, and Optimize podcast. I'm Billy Weiss, compounding pharmacist and health and wellness expert. Today with me is a special guest, Bill. Bill, good to have you behind the scenes as always.
Good
Producer
morning.
Mike, good morning.
How are you today?
I'm good. I hope you are.
All right. Feeling good. Feeling
Good.
very good. Yeah.
All right, awesome. So, you came to the summit in January,
Yeah.
but we did a consult in the summer before that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Tell us what you learned at the summit.
I think the summit was kind of the culmination of a connection with people that have similar kind of problems and similar health issues that was kind of significant to me, and able to interact with those people and learn more about their story and talk about what they did and what we did. It seems to all be centered around some kind of autoimmune kind of situation, but everybody has a little different response to that.
Mm-hmm.
And so the interesting part to me was talking with the people that were there, learning about Mike, who came from Charleston, and told us his story.
Yeah.
And the things that he has overcome was really an emotional part.
Yeah. Well, he had the whole room crying, didn't he?
Well, I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
And so it was a real connection is the best word I can come up with people that have a similar goal in trying to determine cause instead of treating symptom. And I think that's what I heard more than anything else, along with the tidbits that we get from you and from the education, and because the key to that unified effort is education.
Yeah.
And understanding
Right.
a lot of things that the medical community sometimes doesn't have time. And I'm not saying that a doctor can't be helpful. And if I need a medication, the last thing I'll do will be take a medication if that's what I get to.
Right.
But right now I'm taking none.
That's awesome.
And so that's I'm proud of that I don't have to take any medicine of any kind.
Yeah. Well, you should be, because at any age today in America, I believe about half of Americans are on at least one prescription drug. The fact that anybody that's, we'll say, over 50 that's not on prescription drugs is really an anomaly today.
Well, and to that point, we have in Bowling Springs, we have a church and community, a community garden, and people come together, same kind of thing.
Right.
And invariably they're on omeprazole.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing I hear is digestive kinds of issues.
Yeah.
And I tell them my story about omeprazole and being on omeprazole, traveling and not having time to prepare food, just eating what the airport would serve up, is why I ended up on omeprazole 25 years ago.
And you were on it.
Or more.
And you were on it for 25 years.
For the entire time.
Right.
And discovered things along the way, feeling that is probably not the best thing to do, but it was easy.
Right.
Take a pill, I can do whatever I want to.
Convenient.
Or eat what is
convenient.
Convenient. I can eat what is on the road, because I was on the road a lot.
Right.
And so it allowed me to it facilitated a way to get from point A to point B, and that wasn't necessarily the best thing for me. In joint pain and in intestinal issues and autoimmune responses that were not as serious as some, but serious enough to me, and I didn't want it to get worse. And I think that some of those medications that I was taking contributed to that. And then I got to thinking, as I interact with some of these individuals and they talk about, well, my doctor says, or the research says, and I say, well, what research are you talking about? And they can't really tell me what that is. And I pointed out that to try and Well, first off, the unified effort of trying to share information, with our friends, sometimes we can get overwhelming. And when that happens, you want to give more information than they really want to receive.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to be careful how you do that. You have to put yourself in a position to be asked questions so that you can talk about it. But one of the things I do to try to get people to think about where we are in our healthcare system is that in our type of economy, we have certain sectors
Mm-hmm.
of healthcare, of insurance, of pharmaceuticals and agrochemicals, and it's very, very related. I mean, the same companies make both. But when I'm talking to people, I say, do you really think they get up every morning and their first concern is your health? and they go, no, it's probably bottom line, profitability. And it should be.
Yeah.
So it's our responsibility to beware. Buyer beware.
Yeah.
Because we're buying in.
Yeah, you're paying for this.
We're paying for it not only with monetary means, with time and effort and energy and the physical body.
Yep.
So I'm trying to get people to think a little bit differently about what the motivations are, and I would fully expect those sectors to be profit driven. I invest in that,
Right.
so that they are profitable.
Right.
But at the same time, I think that our responsibility is a personal one, that we have to take full responsibility for what the causes are of the symptoms that we're seeing. And that's what I've tried to do. And so in early April last year, we started to change significantly.
Mm-hmm.
Supplements, diet, exercise. And it seems like that as I look back, and we're 8 months in, or a little more, about every 2 months, I could do a review and go, I'm feeling a little better.
Yeah.
And then 4 months, 6 months. And now we're at 8 months, and I'm going, I maybe this is normal, and I didn't know what normal was.
Exactly.
So, that those are the kinds of philosophical ways of looking at our journey. And I'm like Lydia. I wish I'd started sooner.
Right.
In taking more responsibility. I just bought in to the narrative. But again, I think we talked about the last time is that when you partner with somebody,
Yeah.
it makes it easier. And Lydia's done such a great job in preparing food.
Right.
We rarely eat out, and if we do, it's some kind of protein.
Yeah.
But we have pretty much eliminated alcohol and caffeine, processed sugar, carbohydrate,
Yeah.
gluten, lectin, and especially the seed oils.
That's awesome.
Because it never fails. If I get involved with a processed, packaged, you look at it and it's got some kind of oil in it. I try it anyway. Yeah. It's not a good result.
Yeah.
Omeprazole, the purple pills and the different things allowed me to cheat way too often.
Yeah. It allowed you to get away with that.
Yes, it did.
Well, and there's a movement now against seed oils all of a sudden. I don't know if you've seen it, but there are a number of restaurant chains that have started using beef tallow, and they're getting rid of.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
They're getting rid of all. They're pledging to get rid of all seed oils. So there's a trend.
Well, and to that end, I think that there's a real marketing opportunity
Yes.
for those restaurants or food process. They could buy into this.
Well, there's already an app. I don't know what it's called. We'll have to look it up. But there's an app that you can get on your phone that will list, and they're saying they're going to add, as more and more come on board, the restaurants that do not use seed oils anymore.
I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, and they're switching back to much healthier beef tallow. Me too. If I were traveling, I would absolutely use that app and go there to a restaurant that's going to fry or not use any seed oils in their salad dressings or whatever they're frying or whatever, right?
Well, I know that you're guilty of carrying your own salad dressing with you when
Absolutely.
You go. And we've done that a time or two. But it is the seed oil seems to be something I'm sensitive to.
Yeah.
Some of the others, maybe sometimes I have a bad reaction, sometimes I don't.
Right.
So it's hard to tell.
Right.
But the key thing I think for us is that we stuck to the program.
Yes.
We started.
You're consistent.
We decided what we were going to do, and we've been consistent with it for 8 months now.
Yeah.
And I've talked to others that have said that they're doing that as well. But then I've been out and they're
not really doing it.
They're cheating a little bit more than they're saying they're cheating.
Yeah.
But Lydia and I have not varied off. Now, I hadn't say we haven't a little bit here and there.
Yeah, of course. And you should. We talk about that.
But not to any great extent.
Right. Not long term, right?
And we committed to 6 months. We've committed now to ourselves.
Right.
Another 6 months.
Yeah.
We're going to try and to test for. I got a lab coming up in a 3 or 4 weeks.
Okay.
One of the things I'm concerned about in that lab is some of the toxic things we're exposed to and how you test for that.
Yep.
So, I'd like to talk to you about that at a later time. But I'm looking forward to that lab. The one thing I'm concerned about at my age is prostate.
Yes, sir.
And I know a friend of mine that's going through some biopsy Monday morning that I'd like keeping him in our prayers. And so, it's the old saying is that we may not die from it, but we'll die with it.
Yes.
A prostate problem.
Correct. That's correct.
So hopefully that's the case.
Yes.
There's this thing that we've heard with other podcasts and other research that we've done is they talk about the gap. The gap between a period of time when you're healthy, relatively healthy, and when you're not anymore, and how long you live after that and with issues.
Yeah.
So one of our goals is to narrow that gap as much as possible. So the very minute I am not able to enjoy the value of life, I hope it's time for me to go.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I tell people all the time, it's not necessarily about the quantity of life, the number of years.
Sure.
It's more about the quality.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Want to be able to do the things that we enjoy doing, right? So, I tell people it's not anti-aging, right? I like the term anti-olding.
Exactly.
Right? We can live like we're a lot younger than what we are chronologically, right? And that's the goal.
Well,
so I love that.
And the connections that we made in your seminar, which were significant and educational, emotional, and added value to life, also happens in other places. It happens at church. It happens at community garden. It happens in And one of the things that was really interesting was a lady I was talking to yesterday when I told her my story about indigestion and reflux and what I thought was causing it, and that I don't have it anymore. Well, she was just taken back.
They don't think it's possible, Bill.
Well, the doctor told him it wasn't possible.
Right.
You'll, and if the doctor, I hate to, doctors are wonderful people. The ones that I have had as doctors, I really respect.
Yep.
And they're doing all they can do. But this lady was told that she would be on it for the rest of her life. And I've heard that time and time again with other kind of autoimmune situations. Yeah. And she didn't understand that you mean I don't have to live with this. I say, well, it's not easy.
Right.
I remember the first month that we started, and I didn't have sugar.
Right.
Didn't know I was addicted to sugar and carbohydrates like I was.
Right.
So, those kind of things, those revelations, for lack of a better word, has transformed where we are. I feel better. Exercise is easier, not easy, but easier.
Right.
I enjoy it better. Enjoy the yoga better.
Yep.
We've incorporated a red light in near infrared.
Awesome.
Light, near infrared. That's what I would get that
near
right.
Infrared.
And just several different things incrementally, I think, accumulate to put us in a better place.
Yeah.
And it all started with some of your initiatives, some of your persistence with your message. Mm-hmm. And when you hear a message like we heard from you, I'm in my old age, I'm a little cynical about some things, and a little skeptical about what I hear from doctors or from pharmacists.
Right.
Took me a while.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I'm here.
The results speak for themselves, right?
The results are very satisfying and rewarding. They're there. In the hope that it gives, that we don't have to live with being miserable.
Right.
And sometimes we don't even know we are until we get to a point where we're feeling better and we go, wow.
That's the thing I find, Bill, is most people don't even realize it.
Right.
It has become such a norm over time for them to be lethargic, and they don't even realize they're lethargic. They don't even realize their energy's down. They don't realize they don't think clearly. They don't know it.
Yep.
It's just their routine, their normal. It's their new norm. And it doesn't have to be that way.
And we support each other, Lydia and I.
It makes a huge difference.
That's not what we're going to do.
Right.
I say, yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
And then I do the same with her.
Yeah.
So we keep each other accountable.
No, you're right. And you said something earlier that we should go back to, is that Lydia is great at preparing your foods and things. And the same for me is that, Beth and I are on the same page. We're doing the same things.
Yep.
We're eating at home. I would say 99% of the time. We eat out very rarely. And if we do, we like you, we try to make a good choice. And now we know there's an app that we can try to find somebody that's cooking with beef tallow and not seed oil.
That's good to know.
Yes, that's really good to know. So it sounds like you have covered the 5 pillars: the foods, the supplements, the water, the exercise. How about your sleep? Pillar 5. How about that?
My sleep has improved quite a bit. The peptide for the prostate was helpful.
Okay.
I would get up 4 times a night.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's less than that.
When you say peptide, you mean the peptide bioregulator, the capsules that we carry.
Yes.
That we learned about in the summit.
Right.
So that's really helped.
Yep.
Okay. So how many, do you still have to get up at all? Or are you still getting up?
Yeah,
okay.
I'm of that age that, I'm not expecting to feel like I'm 22 again.
Right.
But I feel a whole lot better. I'm sleeping better. I'm getting up. Some days are better than others.
Okay.
Sometimes it's twice a night.
But it's decreased. It's definitely decreased.
It has decreased.
Okay.
And that has improved quality of sleep.
Good. And you're not on any meds. And after 25 years of omeprazole, you're off of that.
Off of that.
Okay. And probiotics, enzymes?
Probiotics and enzymes. And I find that if I miss like an enzyme,
Mm-hmm.
You
can really tell the difference.
My system. But the key thing, I think, is that the response is less dramatic.
Okay, good.
I could wake up with what I called projectile reflux.
Yes.
I mean, it would explode in the back of my throat.
Right.
And that hasn't happened in I don't know how long.
Okay, good.
And so the digestive enzyme and the probiotic, I think, work together.
Yes.
And I don't take the enzyme when I have a problem. I take it before the problem.
Right.
And at least 2 a day. Now, I was up to 6 or 7 trying to.
Get it under control.
But about 2 a day now is right before or during a meal.
Yeah.
And we're essentially 2 meals a day.
Yeah.
Is what we're down to.
So, I was thinking about that, the fact that you were on a drug for 25 years that the manufacturer says the maximum amount of time you should ever be on is 12 weeks.
Exactly.
So, you exceeded that by just a small margin.
A little bit.
But the fact that you were able to now come off and not really have any issues, if you remember to do your digestive enzymes and probiotics, did the pudding demonstration that I did at the summit help you understand why that's the case?
It did. It gets your attention.
Yes,
there's no doubt about that demonstration gets your attention. The thing that was most significant to me, though, over the last 8 months is that I can tell when I miss it.
Yeah.
So therefore,
it reminds you of that demonstration, right?
that reinforces my confidence.
Yeah.
In what that enzyme is actually doing.
Yeah.
And that the quality of our food, the environment that we live in, is working against us.
Yes.
And so the enzyme, the probiotics, and we're trying to minimize. We're not going to eliminate all these different things that we're exposed to. And I can remember as a kid, my great-grandfather was a farmer. My grandfather was a farmer. My dad was a professional golfer. And back then, it was part of that job description was maintenance on the golf course. He didn't go on tour.
Right.
It was a local club pro kind of job. So he was a builder and maintained golf courses. And as a kid, I would go out and be applying what back then was, chlorinated hydrocarbons. You could, they had a half-life of 75 years or something. And, and I was spraying them as a kid. I didn't have any clothes on. I didn't have any protection on. Nothing. So I've been exposed to chemicals my entire life. Yeah. In some way or another, because I was a golf course superintendent. And then I was selling for a company that sold to golf courses and high-end landscaping and that kind of thing. So the chlorinated hydrocarbons and the organophosphates and things that we used and sold and I'd go out and consult with people. I was out in the field all the time and exposed to that stuff. Yeah. So, I'm concerned about that toxic level.
And there is some tests you can do to see where your levels line up versus, what's normal. Mm-hmm. And maybe yours are high, maybe they're not. We don't know. But you're doing a lot to eliminate them now.
Well, and that's the key, I think, is to try to minimize it just gradually, little bits at a time. And that's what I say, over 8 months, there hasn't been anything that just a glaring, burning bush of some type that's came. It's just been incremental.
Well, I love what you said before, though, that about every 2 months you say, hey, this has improved. Hey, now this has improved. Yeah. And I like that because it's not always instant. It's not. I mean, for some people, some things are instant, but I tell people, for example, I think you've started some bioidentical hormones that we discussed. Mm-hmm. And, there are studies that show that bioidentical testosterone, even 12 months in, they are still showing benefits.
Well, that's interesting that you would say that. If there has been an aha kind of, it's been with the micronized, compounded TRT.
Yeah. Well, that's great because, I had Lydia just hand me my phone a minute ago because I wanted to verify something before I said it when we got to this point. there's always been the stigma because of a flawed study that was actually retracted shortly after it was published, but nobody goes back and talks about that.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a warning, a black box warning on testosterone,
yes,
that it caused cardiovascular events, heart disease,
mm-hmm.
which is nonsense, knowing that it is the most responsible hormone for cardiovascular health, heart health. More testosterone receptors in the heart of a man and a woman
right.
than anywhere else in the body. They've actually now reversed that, and the FDA is going to have that black box warning removed. Now, that's almost unheard of.
Well, if you even go to the American Journal of Urologists,
okay,
it'll give you the protocol, 13 through 21. This is what you tell your patient as a clinician. This is the narrative.
Right.
And it really doesn't say that testosterone, TRT, is going to cause or add to any kind of prostate cancer.
Correct, because it does not.
But it doesn't say that it doesn't say that it does.
Right.
But what it kind of insinuates, if you look between the lines, is, well, because there's no definitive answer, we're going to say that it does. We're going to say, just to be safe, to CYA, insurance, the medical clinic and their insurance, we're just not going to get involved. So, no.
Yeah. And that's sad, Bill, because what you said, when testosterone is compounded, micronized, bioidentical testosterone, and it's given at a dose that is appropriate for the man or the woman, and not these, I'll call them Minnie Mouse doses that they give so many people.
Exactly.
They give them a real dose. That aha moment is very common, and we see it all the time, but people are scared because, like you said, maybe the urologist says, hey, it can cause prostate cancer, and the heart doctor says, hey, it can cause heart disease, all of which are based off absolute nothing.
Right.
Like you said, they kind of admit to.
False assumptions.
It's just, and so to know that the FDA has gone far enough to say, okay, we're going to remove this warning about heart disease at least is a big deal.
Well, and my thing is a quantitative approach to, and that aha moment that I was talking about with TRT, when I was feeling terrible and lack of motivation and other things, my free testosterone in the blood test was 1.5.
Now, here's the thing. You knew to have a free testosterone test, though.
I did.
Most people don't even know what that is.
Well, there's a fella in Gastonia in Kings Mountain,
a pharmacist,
that has educated me on several different things.
Yes.
And the quantitative part of that was a real revelation was a 1.5 to 28 in 3 weeks.
In 3 weeks.
With
three
our
to
compounded.
Four,
with your
we're using the right base. We're getting you the right dose. Luckily, your doctor was agreeable to the proper dose.
He was.
And so 1.5 to 28, that's pretty impressive.
And it's still not as high as I'd like it to be. I'd like to be 30 plus, but but listen,
28's pretty dang good.
The difference in that, and I said it a while ago that, and I misspoke. This was a real significance.
Good. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming.
Well, thank you for having me.
It's been very informative, and I know that it's always a pleasure.
I always enjoy seeing you and learning from you.
All right. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
See you again.